All right, so it's Great North Wrestling and about to do.
Are you getting the ground at all?
If you move a little bit more this way, I can't get the road. There you go. Yeah, it looks like you're out in the middle of the mountain now.
Say it again now.
You're Vader, Great North. You're about to do an interview with Great North Wrestling.
About to do an interview. All right, ready?
Yeah. Whenever you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the power of the Rocky Mountains and Boulder, Colorado, I bring you the Prince of Power. For it's time. It's time. It's time to do an interview with Great Northwestern.
Great North Wrestling. It's okay.
Great what?
Great North Wrestling.
Great North Wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That would have been pretty good, huh?
Yeah, that was good.
Do I look okay with this?
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from the power of the Rocky Mountains and Boulder, Colorado, I bring you the Prince of Power. For it's time. I said it's time. It's big Van Vader time. And it's time to do an interview with Great Northwestern Wrestling.
Great North Wrestling, but there's a car in the background anyways.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, but there's no west. There's another car behind you anyways. It's okay. A lot of people that don't know it.
Great North Wrestling.
Yeah. But other than that, it's great. I'm just going to back up a little more.
Cars. There's a truck coming. There's another car coming.
They're probably wondering what the hell we're doing. They're probably wondering what the hell.
It's just a big fucker with a mask on. Alright.
Here we go. Just gonna move a little closer, sir. There we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start out with Great North Wrestling.
Okay.
Keep forgetting it.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, Great North Wrestling Company is here in town, right here in Boulder, Colorado. So from the power of the Rocky Mountains and Boulder, Colorado, I bring you the Prince of Power. For it's time. I said it's time. It's time to do an interview. Big Van Vader style.
Perfect.
Got it.
All right, so this part is the part I'm going to put in there. So you were recently supposed to be on Chael Sonnen's podcast. He's a ex-UFC fighter. Apparently, according to him, you no-showed the podcast after accepting a deposit to appear on the podcast. Do you have any response to him regarding that? He had some less than flattering words that he recently spoke about you on his podcast.
So like if I ask you, like if we get an interaction, I ask you what some of the things he called me,
Yeah.
you could read them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
You want to just ask me what are some of the things that...
should I start?
Yeah. You want to ask me what are...
In the beginning or...
Okay, I'll just re-ask that.
Okay.
So you were recently supposed to appear on Chael Sonnen's podcast, and for some reason you didn't appear on it. He then went on the podcast and proceeded to bash you, basically calling you a scumbag, a carny, a flake, accusing you of writing to him like he was drunk, like you were drunk rather, and accusing you of being illiterate or dumb. Do you have any response to this?
Well, first of all, I really couldn't tell you his name right now. Is it Chael or Chael?
Chael.
Chael?
Yeah.
Chael.
Yes.
Yeah. And I had never heard of this guy. I mean, I've been in the business for 40 some odd years now, and I've done podcasts. I mean, I've done Stone Cold's podcast and JR's podcast and Vince Russo's and so on and so on and so on. And obviously I'm doing this interview now, so I'm open to interviews, but it's not like I didn't want to go on his show. But he called me up and it was like, hey, I'm so-and-so. And yeah, I mean, who are you? I had no idea who this guy was. Not a clue. I'd never heard of him. And maybe I should apologize that, because according to him, he's a big deal. And I couldn't even tell you what state he's from. But he came off pretty cocky and sure of himself, which is fine. But he offered me some money, and I said sure. And I think what happened in the process, that he was under the assumption that I knew who he was and that he had a podcast and that we were going to go on at a certain time. Wednesday at 11 a.m. was his spot. And in terms of time differential, it would have been 9 o'clock in the morning his time. So, and it was 11 a.m. my time. So if you take that out of the equation, out of our conversation that I had with Phil, I have no idea that I'm going to do a podcast or go on the air with him. And I'm thinking he's going to do an interview much like this, where we sit down and we talk, or we get on the phone and you ask me questions and I answer them over the phone. And I've done, thousands of those. And so, in all honesty, and hey, it may be the fact that I'm of another generation, that we didn't grow up with computers. When I graduated from the School of Business with a business degree from the 16th ranked business school in America, by the way.
You were also a center when you played football in the NFL as well as college football, so you had to have some intelligence to memorize plays.
Well, I had to have more than some, but the point is, centers are generally probably the brightest guy on the line, because they're the quarterback on the line. Quarterbacks are the brightest guys on the team, and they have to memorize hundreds and thousands of plays and different variations of plays. And it's probably not quite that extreme with the center, but you have a front side calls. If the play is going to the right, you have a front side call and a backside call, and the defense shifts. And then you have to call off and make new calls, front side, backside, with your front side guard, your backside guard, and your backside tackle. So, to be a center in the NFL, yeah, you have to you have to have some gray matter between your ears. So, it's offensive to me that this, MAA fighter, and I guess he just got beat by somebody, right?
John Jones, yeah.
John Jones, and he got beat pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so, it's not like his career is going well. I hear tell that that could be the end of his career, and I hope not. I hope he gets it back together and tries again.
He also recently failed a steroid test and was on a MMA steroid suspension.
So, well, hey, I couldn't say anything about that, but but you know what? As far as missing that first, I had said yes, I would accept his money. He made me a good offer for money for my time, and he basically ended the conversation abruptly and said, "Okay, I'll be back at you." And I'm assuming he was going to contact me with a time and a date. But I had no earthly idea that he had a podcast. I had no earthly idea who he was. It's just some guy had called me up and wanted to do an interview. Now, that's my take on that first phone call. And, that's just the bottom line. That's the way it went. As far as the second interview goes, because everyone knows I didn't go on the second one, when he ranted on me, I'm not gonna stoop to his level and talk about some of the things he said or respond in kind. But he he wasn't very flattering to me about that first one.
No, one of the things he actually said was even though he fought in the 206-pound weight class, was the only reason he can't kick your ass is because you're a dinosaur.
You know what? It's no secret. I'm having some health problems, but you know what? I'll leave it at that. And I'm 61 years old. I'm 6'4", barefoot. I'm 365 pounds. I can still bench press over 450. And if this kid, this little boy, and you know what? I would actually go a step further and say I will break a long-standing rule, and that I've had, that I don't pick on little people. But if this guy wants to come to Boulder, Colorado, I have a ring, and we can get in it and see if he can beat me up. Because you know what, I would shove his head so far up his, you know what, and send him back home. That little boy would get spanked. I'd turn him over my knee and spank him, and that's the bottom line. So Cal, you heard me. Come on down to Boulder. It's 7,000 feet. You'll enjoy the altitude.
And you mentioned your health problems. You were recently in a car accident that was pretty serious. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I had a rollover car accident. I was in my company car, and was actually coming back from Costco, and there was a series of turns, and I caught a turn too late and overturned coming back, and it actually rolled. The car rolled, and I probably, circumstances leading up to that accident. You know what? Let me back up. I rolled the car twice, and the whole top of the car was caved in where my head was, and my head looked like it. My eyes were black and blue. My nose was swollen. My forehead was swollen. My head was probably close to twice the normal size. And
is that what the mark is on your head there?
Yeah, but it's just just superficial at this point. But probably should have died in that accident, and it was just probably weeks, just literally 2 or 3 or 4 weeks prior to that accident. I was seeing a doctor, and I was in a medical center, and I was seeing my doctor, who was an MD, and a heart specialist came in my room and said, "Leon, we've been looking at your heart." And I said, "Well, who are you?" I didn't recognize the guy, and I won't name him at this point, but he said, "Leon, you have 2 years to live, and we've been looking at your heart, and that's the deal." So, he kind of, it wasn't much longer than that he came in the room, he said that, and he left. And obviously I had 1,000 questions, and I'm in the process of answering those questions at this point. So for me to start talking, would probably be premature at this point. But, I've been in the gym. I feel okay. I mean, I feel pretty good, actually. So I don't know exactly what he's talking about, or if something will show itself up in weeks to come. But, right now I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So,
are you still going to be wrestling?
Yeah, I've got bookings now, and I'm in the gym preparing for those bookings, autograph sessions, wrestling matches, and maybe I can get a match with Kale. And you think that would be fair? if I stuck his head in through the middle of the ring? I mean, he's only 175 pounds. I could choke slam the shit out of him. Can I say shit?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know what, Kel? That's the way we got to settle it. We got to have a wrestling match.
And I understand that you're going to be going to Atlanta to...
Yeah, you know what? In lieu of all of everything that's going on, Diamond Dallas Page contacted me, and if you're looking for a better guy, you won't find it. Diamond Dallas Page, he has a gift to give, and he has a need to give it. And he called me up and said, "Leon, I heard about your problems and your health problems, and we want to help." And he offered to come down. So January 2nd, I'm going to be in Atlanta and start working with Diamond, and we're going to get after it. The goal is to lose 100 pounds. So as I sit right now, I'm probably about 375, 380. So I don't think I'm fat, but I'm big. And I've been in the gym lifting and doing a lot of cardio, 45 minutes an hour a day, walking, and then getting off the bike and then doing a 20-minute walk and then going to work out. So I have.
You still have an appetite.
Huh?
You still have your appetite.
You know what I do, and it's. I'm supposed to be losing weight, and suddenly, in lieu of all of this news and the gloom and doom and everything that's going on, it's like my appetite has increased, and man, I just keep eating and eating, and that's why I'm working out more, because I have to take all that food into something positive. So.
And also, you're not on any specific heart medications now. So maybe if you get on some heart medications, combined with the weight loss, your chances of living longer would increase.
I can't comment right now about that, but I do know this, that I've had 3 different doctors in Boulder, express the gloom and doom scenario. And, so it's the top of the second if we were talking about baseball, and I'm behind. So I'm my son has reached out, and we're gonna go down. I'm gonna go down. He lives in Dallas, and we're gonna go down to Dallas, and I'm gonna go to Dallas and see the doctors in Plano. And my understanding is that the Plano heart doctors are the renowned heart surgeons, heart specialists in the United States and perhaps the world. So I've got appointments down there. And then I'm off to see Dallas. So I'm not sitting on this. I'm proactive. I'm just refusing to die. I'm not going to die. And that's the mindset I have, and the mindset I will have forevermore. So.
And recently, guys like Jim Ross and Steve Austin have said you're definitely a future WWE Hall of Famer. And Mick Foley, since this stuff has come out about your heart, has actually publicly said you should be in the Hall of Fame for 2017 in Orlando. What are your thoughts on going into the WWE Hall of Fame possibly? Certainly you have the credentials, not only for all your accomplishments in Japan and WCW, but you had a pretty decent WWE career, main eventing and pay-per-views and on Raw. So what are your thoughts on the WWE Hall of Fame?
The one thing I'm not ashamed about is my wrestling career. And I shouldn't say that, the one thing. I'm very proud of my football career. I'm very, very proud of my wrestling career. And, it's weird. We talked about this earlier. I had always thought of myself as Leon White, the football player, the high school All-American, the college All-American, the guy that played in the Super Bowl. And actually, I have a ring on now. You know what? I'm going to show it off. You can see that right there. So I don't know if he's zooming in on this. That's the Super Bowl. And then this is my name and number. And then the front is the bowl. And it just says we were NFC champions, LA Rams. So there you go. It's a pretty ring. It's old school ring. It's not the big gaudy ones. They're bigger in guys' hands. I kind of like this one because you could actually wear it. The other ones aren't really meant to wear. They're just keepsakes you bring out at dinner or something like that.
But you feel a WWE Hall of Fame ring would be a good match to that one?
You know what? I think it's I think it's premature for me to comment. I have hopes. I hopes, and every wrestler in America would want to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's an extremely, it's an extremely prestigious honor to be given. But I can't say anything right now.
But as far as
I hope, and I have dreams.
As far as you're aware, you're on good terms with the company.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to just cut this one there because I'm going to... And if you see me move like this, you don't necessarily have to change your view. It's just me checking to see if this is still recording because I don't have a cameraman. Okay, so you recently were supposed to appear on a podcast with Chael Sonnen, who's a former UFC fighter, recently suffered a pretty bad loss to John Jones and was also suspended for a failed drug test as well a few years ago. But he had some pretty
Not very flattering for him, is it?
no, but he had some pretty unflattering things to say about you. He called you a scumbag. He said he could kick your ass.
Uh-oh. He weighs about 170 pounds, 165.
And he made some accusations that possibly you were writing to him while intoxicated.
You know what? First of all, I haven't drank in 15 years. I quit drinking 15 years ago. I mean, I'm a big man, and yes, I could drink a lot when I drank, but it's been 15 years. That of all the things he called me, that's the one thing that bothers me. And if I'm tired at times because of the 100+ concussions I've received over
and you do have memory issues, as we can see now, and I've actually spent some time with you, and I've noticed the memory issues.
Well, hey, if you notice that's what it is. But I started playing football when I was 8 years old, and I remember getting concussions when I was 10 and 12 and 14 and 15, and then going into junior high and high school and college and professional football. And you think of all those concussions right there would be more than enough, would be 10 times too many concussions for a lifetime. But then, add on 30+ years of wrestling and all the chair shots and all the head shots. And so, I think that if he's saying that I slur my words, and at time when I get tired, I do, and I have to enunciate better. And usually when I'm talking to someone on the phone, maybe I was tired, maybe it was late. I don't know. And, the bottom line is with Cale is, who knows who he is? Outside of his town, who really knows who he is? He's a failed mixed martial arts fighter, and he wants to fight me? Gotta kill him. He's 165, 70 pounds. Which hand? I don't get it. He actually said he could beat me up. Cale, come to Boulder. I'm giving you an invitation. Come to Boulder. I have a ring, and we'll just settle that right away, okay? And I'm not going to scream or holler and cut a promo on you, but trust me, you know what? It wouldn't be a very long endeavor on my part, okay? So,
and he called you a dinosaur. He might see the Tyrannosaurus Rex firsthand.
Well, I don't know. Maybe a dinosaur is appropriate, but some of the other things, dumb. I may slur my words from time, again, from the concussions and all the hits to the head, but I've got a degree from the 16th ranked business school in the country, University of Colorado. I've got a degree in business administration. Do you? So it's like...
You've built malls,
Yeah, I have a pretty storied career as a real estate developer. I've built a shopping mall here in Boulder. I've built 20 single family homes. So it's not only are you talking out of school, but you're a liar. So I'm calling you a liar on whatever this is, public broadcast. You said that I came to you with the deal, that I came to you and suggested that we do a podcast. Brother, I didn't know who you were. And my life would be a lot better off if I still didn't know who you were. So,
because just to be clear on that, he's accusing you of being a thief. So he's accusing you of working him almost to get him to pay you to be on a podcast, only to rip him off.
Yeah, so my intent was to call him up, which I didn't have no idea who he was. I had no idea he had a podcast. I had no idea how to contact him. So, he didn't exist. My life, it was zero. Cale, whatever his name is, did not exist in my life. So, he's just lying. He's a liar to make himself look good.
Because I'm quite certain that you're not too computer literate and you don't listen to podcasts and don't really know what they are.
He might be right on that one. Because I graduated from the School of Business, and I remember my business professor, he says, Leon, there's a thing called a computer. It's off campus. It's actually in one room. And this is my business. This was the way of the world. Computers weren't around, when I graduated from college. So if I am computer illiterate, then so be it. I can text and email and, basic things of that nature. But, he may be right on that.
And the other thing, just to make perfectly clear, is you were willing to reschedule the interview, but the problem you had was he went on a show, and from what we understand from the reports, we haven't, neither of us have heard it, but we've read the reports. He did an entire show almost of bashing you. So why are you going to appear on a show when the person has defamed you, basically?
Well, from my standpoint, the first interview, I there's a complete misunderstanding on my part, so I apologize to all the fans, and I'm not going to apologize to this little boy. But he lied. He said that I had instigated this whole thing and then stole his money, which is just crazy. I offered him his money. He said he didn't want it. He wanted the interview. So I said, okay. And then I hear that for an entire hour, he badmouthed me, in which I had just apologized to him on the phone and said, people of my generation don't take money and run off with it like that. And certainly I wouldn't under any circumstances. And I apologized profusely. And then I hear he's bad-mouthing me and ranting for an entire hour. It's like, maybe he spends 5 minutes on it, say he's upset. And you know what? You got to take some bad with the good, and that would be okay. But I mean, an entire hour of just calling me, the guy doesn't even know me. Obviously, he had other intentions. He's trying to drive up ratings. He's not, above all, maybe he's not a very good UFC fighter. That's kind of low to hit him when he's down. But maybe he's not a very good fighter, and maybe I didn't have any idea who he was. But I've lost my place.
And the final thing I just want to get clear here is the other thing that he brought up was that you need this podcast, that it's allegedly the biggest podcast in MMA.
Yeah,
do you really care about MMA since you're a professional wrestler?
It's not my thing. The money was nice, and again,
you're semi-retired.
Sincerely appreciate the money, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to apologize to you again for misunderstanding, because I had no idea you had a podcast. When we first spoke, he assumed that I knew who he was and that I was talking to somebody that I was very aware of, and that he had a podcast. And he said, okay, we'll be in touch. And you know what? The time had come and gone, and I hadn't called in. And so the first one was on me, bad. And the second one, I did, hey, you know what? You're going to talk to me in that fashion on your podcast for an entire hour? No, I didn't do it. And I told him that. I said, I didn't call in because of what you did. And I said, now do you want your money back? He said, again, no. And we ended up doing a third show. So that's it. No harm, no foul.
But there was no third show.
Well, yeah, we finally did the podcast.
Oh, you did the podcast?
Yeah, we finally did it. Oh, okay. It was a good show. I didn't really take many of his questions.
You didn't know that he had defamed you at that point?
No, I didn't know he had defamed me.
Okay.
For the third show. But I thought he had got on his podcast and said, well, Vader no-showed me and he's upset. But, to the extent he's ranting and for an hour, he didn't know me. He had no idea. What if I had been in a car wreck? What if I'd been in a car wreck? What if there was...
Well, you were almost in another one today.
Well, hey, quiet. But here's my point. He had no idea why that had happened. And yet he's ranting about me. In other words, he's on the air and he's talking bad about me to the point where it becomes a rant. And he doesn't know if I'm in a hospital dying, or maybe I was rushing back to my telephone to call him, got in a car accident. It doesn't show very much common sense. And he's calling me stupid. But the point is that he's obviously after ratings. He took an incident where someone no-showed him and started ranting about it because of my notoriety, and I guess people know me across America, and started making a case out of it, because now we're talking about it, and obviously we're furthering his cause now because he's getting ratings of this. He's going to comment on this, and so.
But as far as who's the more known household name throughout the world, obviously we know the ratings professional wrestling gets, and the top stars you've worked with across the world, Antonio Inoki, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, the list goes on and on. he's trying to bring himself up to your level by engaging in this type of thing.
Well, he just got beat by somebody, right?
John Jones, yeah.
And is John Jones a good fighter?
Yes.
Is he? Well, you know what? I wish him luck in rebuilding his career as a fighter, and I wish him well as a podcast.
I actually think he's gone into commentary now. He's not going to be fighting anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's done.
He's a commentator. He's a commentator and podcaster, I believe.
Well, I wish him well, and enough said about that. So, find you're doing too much about him. Stop. Because I don't want to feed into his hand because that's what he wants.
I'm a good editor. I'm a very good editor. Okay. I don't know how to edit that well. Can you just sit how you'll sit in the thing just so I can make sure I got the
like
message?
This?
Oh, there we go. Perfect. I may have to change the battery on this one in an hour because it's.
Can you hand me that water, bottled water?
Yeah.
6. Ooh.
Is there something on it?
Huh?
Oh, I thought there was something on it. So how this will start is we'll start with the thing that we shot outside.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? I'll change the battery now on this one while you're drinking. But I think that's going to get some good hits. That you were pretty comical there, and you didn't get mad. Like you weren't ranting. It seemed more like you're just trying to be funny. You didn't hit him below the belt either. Problem is, you may get him. I'm not saying you wouldn't want to fight him, but
I would.
Oh, you would?
Yeah. He's gonna call me out. You're saying? Hey,
well, because he's under your level of fame, so he might push to do something further. Which I don't know if you'd want to waste your time with.
No, I would.
Unless someone's offering you money.
Yeah. That's what I should have said. I should have said, see, that'd be my out. It's not enough money.
Well, yeah, you could always say that. But in reality, we're also posting the thing about your heart, so it's not going to do anything. Trust me, he's a huge mark. Like, his favorite wrestler is Marcus Alexander Bagwell. That's a shoot. Because he recently did an interview with Jim Ross, so I listened to it to see if he would say anything about you to Jim Ross. He didn't. Wasn't that stupid. But he put over Bagwell in that interview. All right, so we're just going to get right into this. We're going to start with your childhood, right from actually your birth. I understand.
You know why he didn't? Jim told him not to. Not to Jim.
He has too much respect for you.
No, it's not about that. Maybe a little bit, but it's more that the timing's bad. Jim wouldn't talk about me right now.
Oh, dude, yeah.
You know, or wouldn't allow someone else to talk about me right now. And it put Jim in a bad light if he did. Because everyone knows that we're friends.
All right, so we're going to start this right at your birth. I understand your mother had to be induced early due to you being 11 pounds, 10 ounces.
Yeah, I was a pretty big baby. And, you know, the 11 pound, 10 ounce thing is if I go term, that's a big baby, huge baby. But I was born at 7 months and 3 weeks. So I was a premature baby at that size. So they're saying if I had gone term, it could have been a record baby, 15-pound baby, something like that.
And everyone always associates you with being from the Rocky Mountains. You do live in Boulder and have a big history in Colorado, but you actually grew up in Compton, which a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, actually, I was born and raised I was born in Linwood, California, and that's St. Francis Hospital. That's where the hospital was. So technically I was born there, but we were living in Compton, and probably until I was, 10, 11 years old, lived in Compton. And my mother had family. Her mother lived in Compton. My aunt lived in Compton. And there was an uncle that I think also lived in Compton. So we had a few people in Compton. We actually lived, excuse me, oh, I sneezed. Oh my God. We actually lived only a couple blocks from Compton College. So that'll tell everyone. We were on the boulevard just, I don't know, west of Compton College, I believe, toward the river, the Los Angeles River.
What was it like growing up in that kind of an area?
Well, you know what? Obviously, you were confronted, physically, a lot, and you either ran or you fought. And, most of the time I ran, and a lot of times you had to stand your ground and fight. But as a young kid like that, when you're confronted by superior odds, if you're on your Stingray and you're by yourself and two or three guys are coming after you, you try to evade. And but I don't know, living in LA during that era was kind of like predator and prey. You always, when you walked out the door, you were conscious of other people, because in Colorado, it's where I live in Boulder, Colorado. You basically just acknowledge someone else, but you're not afraid that they're going to hurt you or attack you. And in Los Angeles during this era, and maybe today, I don't know. I'm not speaking for them today, but when I was there, it was like this predator and prey. You came out as am I predator or am I prey type thing. So it was different way of life.
And I understand you had a home break-in experience when you were younger.
Yeah. Wow, it's going way back. My parents were out and they were dancing at I don't know, it was Friday night and they were having a good time. They both worked hard. And so my sister and I were home alone. And, it wasn't like we were babies, but we were pretty young. I was I think 8 or 9, and she was a couple years older than me. And we were watching Star Trek, and the old one. This is how old I am.
With William Shatner.
Yeah, the one with Shatner and the real Spock, not just
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy. So we were watching those original series, and 2 men had broken the window in the back and opened it. And one when I got up and I looked, I was barefoot, and we were watching TV in Southern Cal. Everyone's barefoot, and I looked, and he was standing on my bed helping the other guy in, and these guys were, they were the intent, and you could just tell that they had bad intentions. And I screamed at my sister, and we ran out the front door, and they chased us. They were there for a reason, and I'll never forget that. And we ran down to a neighbor's house, and he came. Everyone has a gun in LA by the door, shotgun or something. He grabbed his gun and came to our house, and they'd gone. They'd escaped back out the window, the backyard window.
And your father was in the U.S. Navy, and I understand he invented something that was...
Yeah, he my dad was a very intelligent guy and big, strong guy, and smart. He invented the electric hoist, and the thing about it is he didn't realize what he had, because they made millions of those things, and he sold the plans. He sold the original 2 he made and the plans, and so he still made some money, building them, but good money, but not the millions that we would have had. I'd have been a millionaire, baby. So,
but apparently it was enough money to move from Compton to Bell.
No, actually, we moved to Anaheim, bought a real nice house with that money.
Okay.
And then from there came back to Bell, and that's where I went to high school.
Okay. And what were some of your sporting accomplishments in high school?
I shot put it in track, but really wasn't very good. I mean, I did okay. But as a football player, they have all Southeast and all conference and all Eastern League, and then the All-American, and then All Los Angeles. And you notice I put All Los Angeles team after All-American. So the team to make when you were a Los Angeles football player wasn't the All-American team, was the All Los Angeles team, because that was the premier team. You figure there's 700-800 high schools in Los Angeles at the time, and that first team, All Los Angeles, was, the best high school players in America. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's other ones. There's good players in Texas, and there's good players in Cincinnati, and there's good players everywhere. But you would see All-Americans on other teams that couldn't compete on that All Los Angeles team, because it's just the competition in Los Angeles is just crazy.
And what schools recruited you out of high school?
Probably 40 or 50. SC and UCLA and Oregon. Got it. Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado. I mean, it just goes on and on. Air Force. Actually, it's going to be the Air Force. I had a nomination, congressional nomination, to attend the Air Force Academy.
And what made you choose go to school here in Boulder?
You know what? You're in Boulder. It's obviously beautiful. It's actually to the point where it's majestic. It's blue skies and mountains, and it was a very sleepy town. In other words, I grew up in LA with the smog and the traffic, and suddenly I was in an environment where I could go to school and play top football, because they were the second or third ranked team in the country the year before I was coming, and but yet the college was in a town that had 28,000 people, which was really attractive to me, because being around the masses wasn't something that I wanted to do. Obviously, I wanted to get away from that.
Did you get a lot of celebrity-like attention with the town being so small and the football team drawing, I guess you were telling me earlier, 40 to 60,000 fans a game?
Actually, it was probably more like 65 to 70,000. We were pretty much sold out every game. But again, we were playing good football, and we were like an Orange Bowl team one year, and Big 8 champions the next year. So it was a good time in my life. I mean, to go to school in Boulder, Colorado, and playing football and being young, wow, that was a lot of fun.
So I'm guessing the partying was pretty good too.
Yeah, the beer was cold and the women were pretty.
And you ended up being drafted 80th overall by the LA Rams after college. What was it like going back to LA?
Great. I mean, it was a homecoming. The problem that put a damper on that party was I was a projected first-round pick, and actually the first 2 or 3 picks in the first round. I was number 1 ranked center in the country. I had played guard as an All-American guard. I was a preseason All-American at tackle throughout the course of my career at Colorado, and ended up at center. But I ruptured a patellar tendon just 6 weeks before the NFL draft, and was still drafted the 80th pick, which is extremely respectable. And so it was a homecoming, but it was a damper. I actually flew to LA with a cast on, and I had to fight my way up from there.
Is it true that you made the front page of the LA Times when you were signed?
Yeah, because of the front page, man. It was, all those girls that, the homecoming queen and the homecoming princess and all those really pretty girls that maybe you just couldn't quite date because, you weren't good enough looking. Well, suddenly I was good enough looking. So I had the big car, and I had bought a fourplex on the beach in Belmont Shore. So it was a lot of fun going home.
And the thing is, you were always known as a very strong person. And I imagine around the time you were in the NFL, you were probably at your strength peak. What are some of your lifts that people might want to know about?
I had done a 580 bench at one point in my career, and I was, as a Ram, I was pretty strong. I think I was better known as a wrestler for, because you get beat up in your wrist and your elbow, and the bench press kind of goes away. Mainly you bench press for reps, 315, 365, stuff like that. But I could take 365 pounds behind my neck and jump press it 15 times, just a straight military press. And that was pretty good. That's world class.
And you're one of the lucky few that got to play in the Super Bowl. Very few wrestlers actually have played in the Super Bowl. I guess Steve McMichael might be one of the other few. It was Super Bowl 24, I believe, against Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like playing in that?
It was surreal. I mean,
and you actually had play time, correct?
Yeah, it was an accumulation of a lot of hopes and dreams, and although it wasn't where I expected to be at that time, because of the injury coming in, I didn't have the higher pick. As if had I been drafted in the first round, I would have went to a lesser team where Los Angeles Rams is a Super Bowl team, and they're loaded. I mean, they've got all pro linemen and all pro wide receivers and all pro. So it was a different situation being drafted in the third round rather than the first.
How many years did you have in the NFL total?
I think 4.
And what led you to switch over to wrestling?
Well, necessity. I mean, let's face it, 4 years isn't. I mean, it's a cup of coffee. That's all it was. But it was, the Super Bowl made it bittersweet, because you got to taste and you wanted more, but you had to leave.
The injuries were just too much.
Well, no, they just said, Leon, it's just not going to work out. They were looking for a player that was making less money and had 2 good knees. And in all due respect to them, you couldn't argue with them. I mean, I was pretty beat up at that time, hadn't ruptured my patellar tendon. So.
And I heard a story that you just walked backstage at an AWA show when you hadn't got into the business yet and actually ran into Bruiser Brody. Is that?
Yeah. I had gone down there and for some reason I thought all wrestlers were huge. And I remember I was a very comfortable 315 pounds, and I had ballooned up, I don't know, 385, 390, just to go to the show. As Gene Reed was the promoter, and Brad Riggins was running a camp in Minnesota. And Brad is famous for coaching a lot of people. Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig.
Bradshaw, even, I think.
Bradshaw, yeah, myself.
Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner was his other.
Yeah. His Brad Riggins list is extensive.
Rick Steiner actually told us a story about you going through a wall with Riggins.
Yeah. Well, see, Brad was in the 1980. Was supposed to be in the 1980 Olympics, and he was the odds-on favorite to win the gold, because in 1979 he had beat the Russian that won the gold when we boycotted in 1980, and so Brad was, as good as it got, period. And I was big and strong and lifting weights, but we had locked up and we were tussling pretty good, and boy, he planted his hips and he went one way and I went the other, and I went right through a wall. It was funny because I remember that I had knocked the door. It was actually a restroom, and I had knocked the door off, and it was on my head, and I was staring at the toilet. So it was pretty humbling. So you want to be a wrestler, well, this 5'10" who's substantially smaller than me, coach just threw your ass through a wall. So what are you going to do about it? You get yourself up, and you get back in line, and you do it again. Right?
Did he have an actual ring, or was it amateur wrestling match?
No, he had a ring. And we did both. And what he had a really beautiful home, and he had it was an indoor pool, and he drained the water and cemented the pool over and put a wrestling ring on it, and started the school. So it tells you, wrestlers love wrestling.
What was your connection like with Rick Steiner at that time?
He was one of the guys, and Rob is extremely strong and extremely athletic, and one of the best wrestlers ever, I'd say.
I guess Scott Norton would have been trained by Reagan too, wouldn't he?
Yeah, sure. But he was after me.
After you. And did you have much contact with Vern Gagne? Obviously, you had.
Yeah, I went to work for him, so quite a bit actually. He, basically during camp, he had come over and watch me, and there was another guy there, another football player named Greg Boyd. He was watching him, and the other guys in the school, and so that was it. We were going to graduate from school and go to work for him, and that's exactly what we did.
What was his personality like? Because a lot of people have said he was always good on his word with paying, but he could have temper tantrums and.
You know what? I have nothing bad to say about him. Maybe our dealings weren't that extensive, but there wasn't a promise that was broken to me. He said, "Hey, I'll give you work," and he gave me work, and he paid me good money, and I thought, my opportunities starting out were okay, and then, he called me in his office, and Big Otto Vance was there in the AWF. He was looking for a big baby face, or big heel, to come over. I was a baby face there in the AWA, so Big Otto, needed someone my size to, come over and fight him because he couldn't get sympathy. He was what, 400 pounds and a little shorter than me. So, how'd you like to go to Europe? And this kind of pay you could get. And sounds good. Beer's cold, so I wanted to go. Yeah.
How popular was wrestling in Europe in those days?
Jesus, crazy. We were like the talk of the town. We would travel around from town to town, and we would see there. Rather than spend, a day in a town and then move on to the next town, we would spend 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe longer, and we'd have a tournament, and people would follow the tournament. So it was a point system, and so Vader won, but he got disqualified the next night, so you're taking away points, and so it was a pretty complicated system that they had devised, and people could follow along. And obviously, throughout the course of the tournament, you'd go up and down and make the ratings or rankings interesting for the fans.
I'm just going to turn this down so this. And back to the AWA, how did you come up with the Baby Bull name?
Baby Bull was a nickname I had in college as a football player, so that carried over. And then Baby Bull turned into Bull Power to the Bull, and then finally all that gave away to Vader when Inoki gave me the Vader character.
And I understand you had quite a few matches with Bruiser Brody when you first started.
Yeah, if you could call him that. He didn't have much patience for guys starting out, and so I earned my money, let's put it that way.
What was he like outside of the ring? Did you have any contact with him?
Not much, no. He was pretty quiet. I think he hung out with Stan Hansen, and they'd get together in a room and drink beer and he'd talk. But other than that, he was pretty quiet and to himself.
Did you really have to fight for everything you had in those matches?
Yeah, sure.
And what did you think about...
And then sometimes it didn't work.
Was he just a temperamental guy and just...
No, I wouldn't say that. He knew what he wanted to do. And, if she didn't want to sell for a guy starting out, he didn't have to. He was that big in the business.
And what did you think about his murder that took place?
I don't know enough to talk about it other than I was shocked and saddened to lose it. A great wrestler.
Is there any reason why you never wrestled in Puerto Rico yourself?
Yeah, because of that. I had got offers. I was in my early part of my career in Japan. I just started for Inoki. And Masao Hattori, the referee in Japan, everyone probably knows him. And he said, I gave your name to Carlos Colon. And I said, I won't go. I wouldn't go. I couldn't see myself in a dispute over money or a finish or, and having to defend myself and say, no, I'm going over because you promised me I'm going over, and not being able to back that position up, because you couldn't leave town. So it's just a situation you don't get in.
Because I understand that he was owed quite a bit of money at the time of his death. Do you think it had something to do with money, why the office kind of helped the murderer get away with it?
But I can't, really, I don't know. I'd like to comment, but I can't.
And you brought up Stan Hansen. There's quite a few parts of your career connected with him, but what about those early AWA days?
Between Brody and Hansen, I think, two of the best big men ever. God, how do you get better than Stan Hansen? Stan could work 30 minutes, he could work 15, he could work in Japan, he could work in Puerto Rico, he could work Texas. I mean, he can work anywhere. And same with Brody. I mean, it's unusual to find two talents like that so closely together, in terms of time.
Was it similar to Brody in those early days wrestling Stan, where they wouldn't be willing to give much to a newcomer?
I don't know. I think they both were basically, respect is earned. In other words, if you put the time in, but didn't know what you were doing, they wouldn't give it to you. But if you were prepared to take the next step from just being a total beginner, they would explore with you a little bit.
Were you in the company when Stan walked out on the company as champion?
Yeah. I remember he had his belt and he had taken a hammer to it, and he was hollering, and boy, no one did anything. He was romping and stomping. Huh?
Was this in the dressing room?
Well, yeah, just, I don't want to, Stan and I are good friends. I don't want to, but he
did tell us that something had happened to the belt, so he didn't deny that.
No, he tore up the belt, and then he took his truck and ran it over. So,
what was the reaction like in the dressing room in the weeks after that? With
well, hey, life goes on. As soon as when someone leaves, it's like it's over. It's like, hey, next.
And was Mad Dog Vachon around the AWA at all
No,
at that time?
No.
And you teamed with Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig a bit in the AWA.
Yeah, rode with them a little bit, and that was when I got to know Scott Hall. And Scott and Kurt were good friends, and they were a good tag team. They were a very good tag team, and I got to 6-man with them, or 3-man, in a triple with them.
Was Scott always a partier even in those days? Or?
No, it's that Scott, quite the contrary. Scott was, eating tuna before the matches, and he looked fantastic. He looked 300 pounds, no waist, and just imagine Scott with no waist and, just all muscle. So.
And I guess when you first were going to go over to Japan, originally it was going to be for All Japan.
Yeah, I'd started out. I was told I was going from Europe and going home, and then they were going to pick up a ticket and fly me over for a 5-week tour with Baba. And really, Nick Bockwinkel said to me, Leon, this is a bad move. I mean, they got Stan Hansen, they got Bruiser Brody, they have, you're going to get buried on bottom in that opening match. And instead, I debut against Antonio Inoki, who, had
how did you end up going to there, though?
Had star status above what Hogan was in America. Inoki was, a greater star in Japan at this time than Hulk Hogan was in America. And I end up going in a single match with Inoki in a sold-out sumo palace and pinning him in 2 minutes. So you think about what if I got buried on the bottom against, because you're talking about Brody and Hansen and DiBiase and Race and Snuka. It just, and the list kept going. Steve Williams. I mean, it just kept going over there. So, you could have got buried under there for a long time.
What was your reaction when you found out that you were going over Antonio?
I didn't know until the very last minute, and it's like, I just, you just keep your mouth shut and, get in the ring as quick as possible before they change their mind. Because has that ever happened to anyone in the history of professional wrestling? I mean, good Lord.
And I understand there was a riot there due to that, and you were actually...
Well, see, he was on about a 9-year winning streak. And when I beat him in 2 minutes, they got pissed off, legitimately. And they were rumbling and grumbling, and then they sit on toes, and they lit them on fire and started throwing them at the ring at me. And, wow. So it got pretty scary. And so they ran me out of the ring, and then they said, no, you can't go to the locker room. Because I went to the locker room, and they have cold beer there. Match was over, so I grabbed a cold beer and sat down and, started unlacing my boot. No, you have to leave. You have to go. because they were coming down the hallway, I guess. So
And I understand that New Japan was actually banned from Sumo Hall for a while after that.
yeah, quite a while.
And those fans are used to be are normally quite reserved, particularly in those days.
Well, yeah, they're disciplined, reserved.
I've heard that Antonio, on his status, there was almost like an emperor status. He's a senator now, and he's looked at with just amazing respect, married to a movie star. Would that be right? He's like bigger than a movie star almost there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Hulk Hogan in his prime in America, I mean, he had movie star status, right? He was a movie star.
Yeah.
And
would you say he's at the level of The Rock?
Yeah, probably more so. That's a good analogy. More so on the level of The Rock, what is today.
And I understand that gimmick was also being considered for the Ultimate Warrior and Sid Vicious. Is there any reason why it went to you? Just you were better, obviously, more suited, but is there any other reasons why it didn't?
Well, I think that is the reason. That Sid obviously looks great, and Ultimate Warrior looks great. They're both tan and all muscled up. I think I was, I don't know. I think they were pulling weight. You have to say that Sid and the Warrior both had that 80s look, and I was more of a,
You had more of the killer instinct than either of those guys.
Well, maybe, but just my look alone, I looked like a wrestler.
Like a beast.
I was 390 pounds and looked like a wrestler, and
better athletic ability. I guess.
And more athleticism. And you know what?
Not that they weren't athletes, but they were
very good athletes, but they weren't NFL football players. And I think Inoki saw that. And when you're talking about dealing with Fujinami and Inoki and Shoshu and the list goes on of all the smaller, you're talking about 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1" athletes that can scoot across that ring real quick. Sid at 6'8", and the Ultimate Warrior was somewhat limited, athletically. So they probably would have been challenged, going 25, 20 minutes with these guys and putting on that classic match. And you know what? With all those near falls, I mean, they started. It was 15-minute finish. They'd have a 6-7 minute match and should go right into the finish and go 15.
You probably couldn't really talk about it too much either because of the limited language ability.
Yeah.
You'd have to be able to prepare to do this on the fly, just hearing the finish from the referee.
Yeah. Then that was hard because the referee couldn't speak English.
And what's the? You might not be able to talk about this too much, but they always talk about the mafia connection to wrestling in Japan.
Yeah, I can talk about it. They were definitely there, and I don't think they owned the wrestling companies. The wrestling companies were owned by wrestling people. Maybe they had some people on the board, but more so I think they owned the television company. But the television company had figureheads. In other words, this so-and-so was the president of, and so-and-so is the vice president, and so-and-so is the marketing director, and because when they walked in, these guys snapped too. And that was the real power of the television, and that was the real power of Japanese wrestling was the TV, because without that, you were them dry.
Is it true that those guys would take the top wrestlers out for dinner and stuff?
Yeah,
sometimes?
yeah, those are good stories, wine and dine and food, and then it was like you'd be out with a group of these guys, and they're all sitting around. They're used to being catered to, and they would have waiters and waiting on them and waiting on us, and suddenly one of them would say, "Come here," and he would whisper something in my ear, and one of them had said, "Well, we want you to serve all these guys drinks," and I was supposed to be the world champion and big deal, but it wasn't beneath me to do it. I said, "Yes, sir." I mean, I knew where I was and what was going on, and that was his way of saying, "Hey, you guys are great, and we want you here, but don't make a mistake."
And I hear that Antonio Inoki would sometimes give you like treats in your hotel room after, like a massage, or
Yeah.
is that the kind of stuff they had?
Yeah. Well, and it was like
Not him giving the massage for anyone
No,
doesn't
no,
get this,
no,
but
No, he would send a girl over and um, great massage and great company, but we would do good business, and I'd be on top for. I think we sold out. I guess to just we sold out from my debut in the Sumo Palace for like 2 years after that, straight. So, I mean, business that gimmick and that helmet blowing smoke, really turned things around.
speaking of that helmet blowing smoke, do you still have that?
Yeah. It's in my basement. The horn broke.
Would you ever consider selling that if someone were to offer you the right price?
Oh God, yeah. What, 50, 75 grand probably.
And just one more thing back to the girls. I've heard of these Japanese like steam houses. What exactly are these bath houses?
There's bathhouses, and you know what? Those are public bathhouses, and pretty straightforward. Nothing. They
serve alcohol.
Yeah, you can. You know what? You can go in there and you get a hot tub and a cold tub and an electric tub and a mud tub, and you can get a steam and a sauna. And then, the neat thing about it is you would, completely unclothed, and then you would shower. You would have this, your soap, and you do your nails and your toenails, and you'd really get clean and soap yourself from head to toe, and then you'd get in a steam bath, and then you'd get in a cold bath, and you'd really relieve yourself, and you could wash again. And then it's a very clean atmosphere. So, when you got out of there, and then you would do that for about an hour. So you were washing and sauna and hot tubbing and cold tubbing, and then, Mr. Vader-san, little girl would come over, and she was going to massage you. So she'd take you back in the room and then massage you. And then after the massage, it was like you were done. It was, and I really think they live longer. The men live longer, substantially longer. The North American males, the average lifespan is, I think, 68, 70, something like that. And they're all living in, I haven't checked it lately, but it was like early 90s, late 80s, average. So, I mean, it's substantially longer.
And you ended up becoming the first gaijin, for anyone who doesn't know, non-Japanese wrestler to win the IWGP Championship in Japan, which is the highest title in Japan. What was that feeling like, winning that title? And do you want to just explain to people like how important that title is?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a landmark title. I did the first non-Japanese to ever have it. So yeah, that's kind of an honor. I think even more of a distinction was I became the first wrestler. I mean, Japanese or American, and this is saying a lot, because to ever win both Baba's title and Inoki's title, All Japan and New Japan, having both, and I had one 3 times and the other one 2 times. So, and then of all the companies over there, All Japan, New Japan, Noah, and UWFI, so the 4 companies over there that I work for, I've got world titles in all 4. And no one's ever done that either. So that round robin there, that triple, is, let someone do that.
Would you say that probably of all time, other than maybe the old NWA title, that like as of now, the IWGP title is still probably the most important title, considering that the WWE titles have been killed pretty much?
I don't know. I mean, the WWE, there's a few of them now, but I think the WWE World title, to me, still, I mean, the IWGP and the WWE right there together, but I mean, the WWE is still pretty prestigious.
And what was your feud with Riki Choshu like? That was a pretty long win.
Yeah, Choshu was a good wrestler. Again, that's he's short 5'11", and very powerful guy, 270, and very, very quick, 270, 280 at 5'11", and he was a great worker. He had a great sense of timing. So, but that's the kind of, I think, worker that the Warrior or Sid would have maybe And who knows, maybe they would have tore it up with him too. So, but I'm just saying athletically, I think that would have been more difficult for him.
But as far as the talent goes between you and Sid and Warrior, you've had numerous 5-star matches in your career, which is something that I don't think Sid can say he had a 5-star match.
I don't know.
The Warrior.
Sid.
I like Sid.
Sid's a future Hall of Famer. A Warrior is a Hall of Famer. And, hey, I'm not. So.
And your popularity in Japan at its peak, I understand you were in television ads. You want to just talk us about how big you were there?
Yeah, I was doing commercials and personal appearances were the money was good. Because they really paid for personal appearances where you come to their place and sign some autographs and shake hands and things like that. So I got paid a lot of money, like over $50K for a Sony commercial, and it was a Dodecahorn, and it was a squawk box that I had. Sony commercial in Japan is pretty big.
Right. And what was it like being out in public around that time in Japan?
Excuse me. I don't know. I enjoyed my time in Japan. I once you get used to the environment and you get used to the schedule, great place to work and make money. So it was a great opportunity for me and a great honor to go over there and work.
And probably the match you're best known for now with YouTube and how easy it is to look up stuff in Japan is your infamous match with Stan Hansen. That was part of an All Japan Pro Wrestling versus New Japan Pro Wrestling Supercard. How did that card come about, AGPW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling, and what are your thoughts on that crazy match?
Well, it was a Supercard, and I think there was more than 2 companies, right? It was many companies that were put together. And
which is a rare thing.
It was, 90-some thousand people, and if I'm exaggerating, please forgive me. But we were one of the main events, and Stan was just huge in Japan. He like Inoki, shared a special place in Japan, especially after Brody had passed. And I think, when Brody passed, they realized, it was even my status, grew substantially along with Stan's. And so we were finally put together. Probably what would have been Brody and him, was now me and him. And it was a great honor because it was the top two spots. And, for Americans, in that time, in that culture in Japan, without question. And so, we got after it pretty good, hot and heavy. And, somehow Stan's thumb got in my eye. And I'm not going to say, I don't know. He says it was an accident, and I'm taking him as his word. But,
it did pretty serious damage to your
eye. I lost.
It obviously popped out of your head.
Yeah, it popped out of my head. I had to shove it back in, but I had to. I lost vision, lost like half the vision, and then the eye itself, when it pushed back in, the cord had stretched, so they had to take it back out in a subsequent surgery and cut the cord and reattach the cord because the cord was too long. So in other words, my eye would look left, this side would look left, but this one would stay straight ahead. So my eye was lagging. And then all the bones in my face had to be fused. So I mean, all my cheekbone was broke, and all of this was broken. My whole nose was crushed. So this nostril had to be rebuilt with steel, and then up here my eyebrow was cracked, had to be fused, and so pretty extensive surgery. And yeah, it was pretty painful to shove it back in and keep wrestling because he kept hitting it. That was obviously it just kept getting hit during the course of the match.
Were you tempted to lose your temper in that match?
Yeah, I mean, it came close a few times. You just like, hey, this ain't right, and how or whatever he could possibly do, he couldn't justify thumbing me in the eye. And and doing that kind of damage. So anything I would have done if I hadn't, kept myself as a professional, certainly I think would have been justified. I think everyone would have said, hey, how can you blame him? Shit, she just got his eye knocked out.
Did it ever cross your head to stop the match when that eye first?
Yeah, at the very first, I didn't know it was going to. Because I remember I took off the mask and I was walking around in a circle with my left hand, keeping him off me and touching it, seeing if, how bad. Because when I shoved it back in, it didn't go all the way back in. It was substantially protruded. If you look at it, it was like this is here. It was probably half an eyeball out, but it was kind of half in the socket. So that worried me. I thought if it pops back out, I'll lose it, But what happened was the swelling had swelled over it, even though it wasn't sunk back in, and was holding it in place. And so I felt it, and it felt pretty firm because that swelling was so tight. I thought, well, shit, I'll try it. So you just, you grin and bear it, man.
How much did it cost you to get it all fixed?
Quite a bit. About half that paycheck.
Because you made about 40 grand for that match, I guess.
You're never on tape.
I'll cut that
something
out.
Like that.
I'll cut that part out.
Man is yeah. They could.
I thought I heard you say it in another interview too.
I did, but
we'll chop that section in. Oh, you did an audio tape. I guess that's why.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah, it's 20 years old, so.
And sorry.
Can I stop for a second?
Yeah.
Restroom?
No problem at all. That'll make it easier to cut that.
So, you put these out one at a time?
There'll probably be, because it's pretty extensive, I'm going to say there's probably going to be 15 individual clips on all the things that people are really interested in. And then about a month later, I'll put the full thing out. The highest one we have of the full thing so far, I think, is the Honky Tonk Man. It's got about 150,000 total views, but some of the individual ones have 400,000.
Good.
So
what do you do? You put them how? Where do you put them out?
I put them on YouTube. I'll tweet them to you on the individual clip.
Then I can just push them.
I think the first two things we did are probably going to get the most because they're the most relevant to today.
Yeah.
The rest, I just want to get your career done just for the historic, because come in, historical reasons. Yeah, I tried a couple different ones and it's not working.
Okay, so first thing, we want to make sure that there's water in here. Do this.
I think you had to pass it down
There we
first.
go. Okay, so there is plenty of water.
It just makes the sound and no coffee comes out.
Okay, so we're going to press this first. When it's done heating, that's when the water's going to start dripping. It takes...
Yeah, but it won't. It just never drips. That's what.
How long are we waiting?
I've tried it. We tried it. Probably about. Oh well, now it's gonna work because you're here.
Because I'm here. Yeah, it usually doesn't take that long. It just takes like a few minutes to kind of get hot.
Because like this is what came out on the last one.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you're not getting a full cup because it's maybe started to drip into this cup. Was this?
No, that's a brand new.
Oh, okay. No, never mind.
I did
take it
that
back.
about an hour ago. I tried. Either way, it appears that we got one now. So.
It looks like it is working okay now, but if you do need extra coffee, let me know. I'll bring you some more up.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just use the bathroom too. Of course, she's gonna make me look stupid. Of course, she's gotta make me look dumb.
Of course.
But we have 27,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel now, but it's literally growing every month. We're getting an extra 1,000 at this rate.
So how do you recoup your expenses? I mean,
By making the company more popular, make more money off of my gates,
off of what?
off of my house, off of my like house gates when I put on events. Because it's a wrestling company mainly that I run.
Mm-hmm.
But like I post my own matches, for instance, on this YouTube channel. My average match that I post gets around 15,000 hits, which I've never been in WWE. That's not bad for an independent wrestler.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So it helps make me more popular in my area. And when I post interviews to promote events too, I put up a screen at the start of every video promoting my website. So it also helps traffic to my website.
Well, I'm falling asleep.
All right, we'll
I
plan
need to drink this coffee.
Oh, and there's another one.
Is there any cream?
Yeah.
Cool this off so I can drink it.
It's only the shitty powder kind, but
Well, I didn't sleep last night.
there is cream in the.
You really prepared a bunch of questions, huh?
Well, I wanted to. Trust me, I'll listen to all the interviews I could hear on you. So, teaming with Bam Bam Bigelow, what are your memories of?
Bam Bam was great. I mean, him and I kind of butted heads. You know, we toward when we formed the tag team, we became tag champs for Noki. You know, we seemed to sense that hey, we were good together, and we complimented each other, and we knew how to feed each other. So I think for that sake, we got along better. But you know, for the most part, I don't think he liked me. And
He claims that he groomed you, and he claimed, well, he's passed away now, but he said this on his shoot interview, that you had redhead syndrome, what he described.
I don't know, but you know, it's like I'm getting. What did Kill call me? How many different things? God. I mean, I'm a flake. I'm this. I'm that. You know, I'm a college-educated man, and someone said I was bipolar, and that's like, you know, I'm actually thinking Vader's a real character, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's Leon, and then there's Vader, and this is just crazy. So, you know, from the dead, he's getting me. From beyond.
Well, the shoot interviews stay up forever. So I guess
What did he die of? I mean,
it was heart related, I guess, from what I understand. Speaking of people that passed away, did you have much contact with Steve Williams, Dr. Death, in Japan?
yeah, we were pretty close. Yeah, I heard he fought a real courageous battle. And he really wanted to live. He was a very, I don't know, you know, he was full of life. He had dark skin, and he had all this energy and power, and it was a shame to see him go.
And WCW had a working relationship with New Japan in the early 90s. Is that how you got brought into WCW? From their connection with Japan?
No, I think I created that relationship. I was like the first one.
Okay.
And
Would it have been Jim Ross?
I had initially contacted Jim Ross, and Jim said, you know, he would give me some shots at X amount per shot. And that's how I was initially working for New Japan full time. And when I came home, I would, you know, they would know I was coming home, and they'd say, okay, we got this trip home, we got 15 dates for you. You know, and this trip home, we have so many dates for you. So that's how they booked it. But it's all started with Jim Ross, and of course Dusty. And
Was Bill Watts head of WCW at that time?
yeah, he was. At some point, he was. I don't know if he was initially. So
Would it have been Jim Herd initially?
yeah, Jim Herd initially.
Did you get along well with him? Ric Flair always puts Jim Herd down, but I've heard other people say
I didn't have any dealings with him, so I was coming in and out. I wasn't a salaried. I was just making so much a shot.
Bill Watts seems like the type of guy that would have liked a wrestler like you. Did you guys?
He did. I never had no trouble with him. He let me do my thing, and I was drawing, so he just let me go.
I guess Eric Bischoff would have been an announcer when you first came to WCW.
Yeah, and Eric, initially didn't know much about wrestling, and I think he's probably the first to admit it, but he learned pretty quick,
He never really has much good things to say about you. Was there any heat?
Eric, yeah, we had heat. I was trying to be nice, previously, but yeah, we had heat. I think at some point he was making wrestling decisions, and I questioned him, and so.
What I always find personally funny about Eric Bischoff is I think WCW only profited for about 1 or 2 years while he was in control of WCW, and he's always talked about sometimes as a genius for creating the NWO, but the company never really had long-term profit.
Kevin Nash created NWO. Kevin Nash, that was Kevin Nash's brainchild. That's Shawn Michaels got up at the Hall of Fame banquet,
Oh, because you were at the Hall of Fame banquet last year.
And Kevin was being inducted, and Kevin Nash created the NWO, as far as I know, but it wasn't Eric.
And you were paired with Harley Race, the legendary wrestler who we've also interviewed as your manager. What was that like, being paired with such an interesting guy?
Well, for me, obviously, it was somebody that you respected, and somebody that had been there, done it, and I felt honored to be with him. And when you wanted a spot, Harley, what about this situation? What would be, this is what I have, can you come up with something better? And 9 times out of 10, he would come up with something better. So he was, we would ride together in the car, and we would, it just, he would never tell me anything and he would never criticize me ever in front of anybody. But we'd get down the road driving, Harley loved to drive fast, and he'd, 120 mile an hour down the big wide Atlanta roads, and he would say, what made you do this instead of this in this position or in this situation? And, that type of teaching, that comparative shopping type thing, I did this, but you're saying I could have done this. Oh, I see how that could have worked better. It would have fit into the next thing. And so it starts getting, this is where wrestling becomes beyond. In other words, people say, well, wrestling's fake, wrestling's entertainment, wrestling's this. And when you get on the level that Harley's at, a guy like Harley Race is at, this 50-year wrestler, Hall of Famer that, understands the game and the ability to tell a story with your body physically. It's where it gets very, very hard to do, hard to duplicate.
Just realized I didn't move this back. Sorry.
Thanks.
No, sorry. I just noticed on the screen the lighting was a little bit. Is that all right?
No.
There?
That's a little better.
Maybe if I put it behind.
Yeah, that's better.
So it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's better.
And you had a famous feud with Sting that went on a long time. You had some great matches with Sting. What are your memories of working with him?
I don't know. I would say it's one of the better feuds in wrestling history. There's been a lot of great feuds. I'm not saying it was the best or the top, but I think it would rank up there amongst the top, certainly. And it's just, we never had a bad match ever. And it was just like gold with him. I mean, he knew how to sell, for me, and he knew how to come back, and he knew what I wanted to sell for, so we got to know each other very good.
Would you consider him your favorite opponent? Or up there?
I don't think I have a favorite, because there were so many in Japan, and, so many in the WWE, and, and then Cactus Jack. I mean, Mick and I, we had a great feud. you know, Ric Flair and I mean, we did a lot of good business at WCW.
And there's an infamous vignette, the White Castle of Fear vignette, that's pretty popular on the internet nowadays. What were your thoughts on making those WCW
Well,
vignettes?
Sting hated it. He hates it today. He said, "Oh God," he was embarrassed to do it. And I thought it was kind of cute, corny but cute, you know.
Yeah.
The White Castle of Fear. And then my fond memory of it is that my son, you know, when the helicopter was flying over, when Sting was coming to the White Castle of Fear, my son was 7 years old, and he says, "Papa, where's my bedroom in there? How come you haven't told me about, you know, we have this new." he was almost in tears, and I get a kick out of it. I laugh very hard when I think about that, because he was saying, "Oh, that's a great place. Where's my bedroom? You know, how come he was pissed that he hadn't seen it."
He wanted to live in the White Castle of Fear.
Yeah, so the White House, right? So he wanted to know. That was great.
And you had a feud with Nikita Koloff that he ended up getting injured from. What was that all about?
You know what? Let's just shed the light on this. Nikita wasn't hurt. Nikita had an insurance policy, and he collected.
Oh, he was one of the Lloyds of London, where Ted DiBiase took that, I think, too. Kurt Hennig took it for a while. I think Animal. A lot of people were covered by that.
Yep.
So that's the inside story on that one.
That's my opinion. I didn't hurt him, but he collected, and he's now a minister. So he found his calling. It took how many $3 million, and he found his calling. And you know what? More power to him. I mean, he's a good guy. Why not? Why couldn't he collect?
And you were part of a historic match when you were WCW World Champion. Ron Simmons won the world title from you to become the first Black World Champion.
You know, take that aside for just a minute. That match was a heck of a match. It was only about 13 minutes, but man, it was just perfectly placed. Ron didn't like to wrestle long, so I knew I had to come up with something short and sweet. And man, it just popped. I mean, have you watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just...
At the time when I was young.
When he pinned me, my God, the people just... I've never heard a pop that loud, ever. And I've heard some loud pops in Japan.
Do you think they should have given him a longer run with the title?
Well, he was hurt. No, so... I mean, I took the belt back just a couple months, 5 or 6, 7 months later. I don't know. It wasn't that long. 6 months. But he was hurt a lot of that time. You know?
And Jake Roberts was around WCW at that time. Any memories of him being around WCW?
Jake was a troubled person in that time. He was, you know, he was making his shots and wrestling, making appearances, but he was a troubled person. And I think, you know, Diamond Dallas Page is you know, something I want to say is that Diamond has offered to help me with my problem, and we're going to first, you know, attack what I eat, see if I can get more nutrients, more health out of my food, and then obviously as far as calorie intake, and the goal is to drop 100 pounds with him. So, I mean, I don't know, he seems to have knowledge, and he chooses to give this knowledge as a gift, and you know, he certainly helped Jake out, saved Jake's life, and he saved Scott's life, without question. And I was around them both, not a lot, but just, you know, sporadically at this show or that show. And, you know, they really needed an intervention, and he came. So, you know, hey, you know, there's hope.
And did you ever wrestle DDP at any time? Or do you avoid it?
No, but I remember him starting out. DDP was, you know, tall, really tall, 6'5", and lanky.
Yeah.
And I just seen this guy over in the corner, and he was setting up this recorder, much like the one right here. And I said, "What are you doing, man?" I said, "I see you doing this every night." He said, "Well, I record every one of my matches, and I go home that night while it's fresh and watch them." And, you know, Diamond was a terrible wrestler when he first started. He had no clue. He came from the street and had no, you know, really probably not a whole lot of athletic background, maybe in high school, I don't know. But, man, he became a really good wrestler in a short period of time with, you know, probably above average athleticism, but not great. Not like a Sting or Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair. And he got a whole lot of mileage out of his career.
And another incident maybe you could shed some light on is you had a match with a jobber in WCW, Joe Thurman, and according to reports, he ended up breaking his back.
Yeah, you know what? We went to the hospital that night, and he was hurt, and he had a sprained back, but it wasn't broke. I mean, I said, "Can you stand up right now? I mean, you're laying here on this gurney," and because I said, "Harley, I have to go." I mean, I powerbombed him like I powerbombed anyone else, and that's what they asked me to do, and I felt terrible. I said, because that's what we do. We take care of each other. We don't, the goal, maybe to rough someone up or spud someone, but you don't hurt someone. So Joe, he stood up. He stood up and said, I don't know anybody with a broken back could stand up. He stood up and said it hurt, and he sat back down, but it made me feel better. I got back on the road. If you can stand, this soon afterwards, you're probably not broke. I heard broke. I said, this guy's crippled. He's laying there. He can't move his legs. He broke back. And that's what people hear. And the fans, they hear, he broke his back. Well, I did break his back because he was standing and talking to me, just an hour after the match in the hospital, in the emergency ward.
Was there a legal situation with him in WCW regarding that?
I don't know. And they didn't tell me.
And you worked with Davey Boy Smith a bit in WCW. Any memories of that?
Yeah, Davey Boy's great. There's another one. I mean, Sting and Davey Boy and Mick and Flair, Hogan. I mean, very, very productive time.
Why was his run in WCW so short?
Who?
Davey Boy's, because it seemed like it was only a brief feud that you guys had, then he was gone.
I never looked at it like that. There's only one match that could be the main event match, and usually that was,
that was fresh off of his Wembley Stadium match. And
yeah,
he's pretty popular at that time.
I mean, between, I had my fair share of main events, and Hogan had his, and Flair had his, and Sting had his, and oftentimes together, but Davey Boy was maybe the semi-main event, but he was contributing in a big way.
And your feud with Cactus Jack, that's another big one that you're known for. What are your thoughts on that brutal WCW Saturday night match you had with him?
Mick he's got to be the most courageous man I've ever met. Good friend. He's came out publicly for me recently, and I love him to death. But he, the bumps he took with the Undertaker on the cage, it's just, it's for me to sit here and say that it's off the chart, it's like from a 1 to 10, it's a 12. It doesn't even do those bumps justice. It's like 20. For him to take that bump off the top rope, the one bump where he was on the corner of the cage and Undertaker threw him off, and he just kind of off of one leg off the top of that cage, he rotated and landed kind of on his shoulder and back. Well, what if he had rotated just a little bit, nosedived?
Yeah.
And he hits his shoulder, but he hits his head at the same time. He's dead. And so it wasn't just the fact that he took those bumps. I mean, probably some good athleticism, the reason he's alive. And then one through the cage, one straight down through. And, he's, my God, you know what? And let me get to me real quick. But the one, I remember he had a tooth. Well, his tooth had fell out and was in his nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, really things we did, I powerbombed him on the cement. And I'm telling you, he was a big dude at this time. He's lost some weight. He's lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
why you're doing it. Yeah.
Well, he did it, through Diamond, through Dallas Page, Diamond Dallas Page. And he went down there and got some advice. And I started out with him and then, went on his own. Because, you can't stay down there for 6 months in his house. So, you have to, you get started with him and then you go away and you have to do it on your own. But certainly Diamond is the catalyst of that. And he looks great. You saw him on Monday Night Raw just the other night. But I mean, I powerbombed him. He was probably 350 pounds, and I knew he'd be a load. So, I mean, I really grunted, and I got him up pretty high. And, man, he splattered on that cement. But looking back, you go, well, all that just, even a powerbomb on the cement, pales by comparison for taking that bump off the top. It's like, so.
And what was your reaction when he lost his ear in that match? That wasn't anything to do with your fault. His ear was caught in the cables. But
it was caught in the cables and it was tore off. And my hand did rip it off finally, but I think it was partially torn, and I tore it off the rest of the way. I think that'd be fair to say. At first I was shocked, and then I thought, hell, Mick Foley he didn't blink an eye, so I'm like, shit, is he gonna stop, or what are we gonna do? He just lost his ear. And the funny part was, Mick's going, hit me, Leon, hit me. So his ear was bleeding. So, my clubs those big clubs I use. So I hit him. Man, it just, whatever was left out of there just flew. So I hit it, man. It just, rest of it, there's a little chunk left on there, and it just flew off. And blood everywhere. And the ref went over. He saw where the initial part of the ear fell off. And he went and grabbed it. He came over to the both of us and goes, "Here's your ear, Foley." I think I kicked the ref in the stomach and said, "Drop it, we'll get it later." God, we're in the middle of a match. What do you want us to do with that damn tear? We should have stopped the match and went, "Oh, God, that's interesting." I'm getting tired. I said, "So punch drunk."
And you were tag team partners with Sid in WCW at the time of his crazy fight with Arn Anderson.
Yeah, you know what? It was a pretty good tag team. We drew.
The masters of the power bombs.
We drew. The crowd were jam packed, and we were a main event. We drew, and main event the Beach Blast. I guess the pay rate was pretty good. I think it was a 2-0.
There's another vignette for that one too.
Yeah. With
the midget blowing up the boat.
Oh yeah, and we were walking. See, I got sunburned that day because I had, man, it's a hot day, and I'm redheaded, so I got sunburned. But oh, God.
So were you around when that fight occurred with Sid and Anderson?
Yeah. Tell you what. Here, real quick, I'll give you the chronology on this. We had worked all week, 2 weeks, 2 weeks hard, 3 weeks hard. And then we were supposed to, after 3 weeks of hard work and you're tired, we're supposed to meet in at 5:00 in the afternoon, meet at the airport in Florida at this one terminal, private for us, right? And so they've got all the drinks, they're all loaded. So we're all there and we're all beat up. So, I've been 3 weeks on the road and I'm beat up. So I'm taking a couple pain pills, getting ready to get on this long plane ride over to the deal. And, I was riding first class. So, I wasn't worried too much. But you take pain pills, and then you take a couple muscle relaxers, then you take Valium. Not too many, but just enough to relax you, because that plane ride, your legs get tight and you can't stand up after a while, your back hurts, and it's like, but those, they just kind of keep you loose. And if you overdo them, well, then you're an idiot. But if you don't, they could be a very helpful tool.
That's the reason they're created.
Yeah, but if you overuse them and you're throwing up, and it's just crazy. So we're this plane ride over there was just crazy, and then we land. So now we're talking about 3 weeks of work, and then the plane ride, and then the party at the terminal, and then the plane ride, right? And then we get there, and the sun's coming up. And, okay, guys, get on the bus. Drove 3 hours and wrestled. Wait a minute, we're not going to a hotel and sleep? Because that blew me away after all that,
It's a long time.
And then wrestled, and then got on the bus again and drove another
to the next town.
4 hours to the next town. Didn't stay in that town. I thought, well, we'll wrestle, and everyone will get off the bus, and then we'll wrestle and then go to a hotel and, sleep it off and travel the next day. No, that night, and that was it. So we finally got there, and it was sun up, and
There was drinking on the bus, I'll assume.
Oh yeah, just tons of it. And then so we get there, and I can't remember. It was either Stone Cold was in the bar by himself, you know, and I think he was, and I opened my door. I had a ground floor room, and I opened my door, and I had these big white boxers on, and I see, well, that sucker's over there drinking. How did he get to bar? Because we didn't think the bar could be open. Somehow Stone Cold got it open, and this was before his Stone Cold run, you know. So I said, how did he do that? So I put on my tennis shoes. So I had these boxers. Imagine a 400-pound guy in white boxers and tennis shoes, no socks and no shirt. And I come walking over there, and Stone Cold just starts laughing. He says, well, have a beer, Leon. You look like you need one. I said, sure do. So we start drinking and talking, you know, and this was a really nice hotel, but there was no one there. And so I'm in my boxers at this bar. And Stone Cold tells the story. It's funny as shit. Here's Leon sitting at this 5-star bar in Europe. And that's like oblivious. I mean, you're oblivious because you're numb.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 3 weeks on the road is murder. And then it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And finally, they pushed us, you know, till it popped. And suddenly, Stone Cold and I, we hear this, what's over there? My God, they're fighting. That's Arn and Sid. And we didn't move. We had our beer and just, shoot, they're over there. Man, that's serious. We did not move, go help or nothing. We just like, didn't ever cross us. We were so tired and intoxicated. It's like, you know, I can't get over there. Shit, I don't know if I could get over there alone. What I do when I got there?
You're in your boxers.
Yeah. I'd go down and I'd get beat up or shoot, cause more trouble. So next thing I know, Sid comes walking over and he's doing Frankenstein walk. He's literally, I mean, he's Frankenstein. I said, Sid, what's wrong with you? He was my partner, so I got up off the stool. And man, I looked closer. I said, man, he had a hole in his stomach right here. And about my thumb. That's where they had been stabbed, those scissors, because you figure both scissors, you know.
Because he came to Arn's room or something, and Arn had a pair of scissors in the room or something.
No, I didn't see it, so I can't comment. It's one great. All I saw was Sid coming over, so I can't comment on nothing that. But so every time Sid's heart beat, I mean, about a nickel size, right side of my finger would pump out blood, and wow. It's like he's gonna die because he wasn't just bleeding. It was like a fountain. You know, Sid had a big, strong heart, and it would become, you know. And then I noticed it was getting less. The blood pressure was, you know, he was dying. And he said, Leon, I said, Sid, sit down. And I stuck my thumb in the hole. Literally stuck my thumb in the hole, and I said, I'm gonna push a little bit. And I got it in there, and it actually quit bleeding. I mean, a little was trickling out. And I said, don't move, man. And I started yelling. I said, somebody get an ambulance and Sid's going to die. But they were scrambling and everyone's now coming. And they said, Leon, don't move. Your thumb's got it stopped. And the ambulance driver comes, said, we got it now. And he pulled my thumb out. And you know what? Neither Arn or Sid thanked me because, and I don't expect them to, but I'm just kind of being facetious here.
Because if Sid had died, Arn would have. That's basically,
yeah. And Sid dies, well, he's dead. So, and yeah, I think he would have. I think he would have bled to death. And because there was, when I took my thumb, it was 15 more minutes, and there's no way he would have bled that much. By the time he got to me, he was already passing out. So he was ready to go out, and I stopped it, and I kept him, said, just breathe, keep breathing, don't pass out. I said, don't pass out. He was looking up in the air, and he was sitting down, but I had him sitting down. So, you know, I think maybe I saved his life, but never once, hey, Leon, thanks for sticking your thumb in my. That was quick thinking, you know. Not even a hoot.
And last time I talked to Sid, he told me he wasn't drinking anymore, so I guess that's probably a good reason why not.
Well, hey, join the club, never mind.
Were you there for the Brian Pillman incident with Sid with the squeegee?
No.
No.
I heard about it, but I don't think I saw that.
Did you get along well with Pillman?
Yeah, Brian. Yeah.
And one of your most famous matches in WCW was your. You want to get it? I'll just wait for this.
877.
Oh, 877 is probably the salesperson.
Yeah.
You want me to make you another coffee or you good?
Yeah, one more. This one popped me. It popped pretty good.
Yeah, and we're. The WWE run, there's not as much to talk about. We're almost at that.
Yeah. What about Orndorff? You can ask me about Paul?
If you want me to. If you want me to skip over that. You actually should say something about that because there's only his side of it out there, really.
Yeah, I think I should.
What did I have on the most recent podcast I heard of him?
Yeah, he keeps spouting off, doesn't he?
I'll tell you exactly what he said. All you got to say is your side of the. You don't have to diss him or anything, but you could explain the real story.
He's sick.
I got that may be why he's been saying worse stuff, but I wrote down exactly what he said from the most recent podcast. Oh yeah, he said he would have killed you at the time if there had been a weapon around.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Well, see, I got blamed for being late, and I was doing a photo shoot for Eric. Eric called my room at 8 a.m. and said, "Leon, if you don't come today to the photo shoot, you're fired." So when I showed up, 2.5 hours late, we were getting ready to start the matches, and I had interviews to do, and I had just been in a 4-hour photo shoot, and grueling, exhausting, and where you had to go in your street clothes and then put your hot stuff on, get all pumped up, put your uniform on, and then start posing, right? And then, well, that photo doesn't look good, let's do it again. That photo doesn't look good, So it just became grueling. And I had told Eric, please call over and tell someone that I'm going to be late because I'm doing this. And of course he didn't do it. And there was actually some talk that Orndorff and Hogan and Eric had set me up. Hogan didn't want to do the job at Nitro, the opening Nitro.
Oh, because it was right before that.
Yeah. I don't know. That might be far-fetched, though. But
it's very convenient that you were let go when you were more of a valuable asset to the company at that time.
not that Hogan had probably taken over. Sting and Hogan, I was probably third, before Flair. And Macho was there too, so probably before Macho too. But hey, you want this cup? Soup?
Yeah, I'm using the fresh one. It sounds like it's brewing. But yeah, I could just get you to briefly tell your side of it without saying anything.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to introduce no conspiracy.
No.
That might not be. To say, hey, it was what it was, but the bottom line was that Orndorff has, made a living.
He didn't knock you out, though, did he?
Brother, this is the honest to God's truth. Man.
Yeah.
First time, I swear to God on my soul. And I have no reason to lie. If he beat me up, I would say it. But you have to understand, Orndorff had a crippled arm. His arm was about the size of his wrist all the way up. And that's the arm he hit me with. And he hit me and I went, I said, Paul, you better hit me. So I actually laughed. He hit me again. He hit me the third time, and I grabbed him and went to the floor. You know, there was some Coke spilled, so I slipped, and I drug him down with me. And Paul, some of the wrestlers helped Paul up, and he kicked me once or twice before I got up. That's all.
Yeah.
So in other words, I fucking, I was going, Taylor, his name Taylor, the agent?
Terry Taylor?
Terry Taylor, the agent, said, Leon, you have to do some interviews and you're late. And Paul I came in first. And I said, Paul, do you know where I've been, you know? And because he walked in and said, motherfucker, said, what business do you have? Who in the fuck do you think you are coming in 3 hours late? And I said, Paul, man, I was doing a photo shoot, didn't Eric tell you? So when he cussed me again, he said, no one fucking told me nothing. I stood up and got in his face. I said, fuck you.
He said in his interview that I heard that you were the one that came up to him swearing.
No. See, he came up to me and said, who in the fuck are you? Because in other words, what am I going to do? I just did a photo shoot. I had my bag and I went into the room and sat down. Like, whew, I just did that traffic from the Atlanta Towers over to the CNN Center.
Yeah.
And so what, you're going to sit down, right? So I sat down. He came in and said, you're fucking late. Why are you late? In a tone. And I said, Paul, I'm fucking doing this photo shoot. And didn't Eric tell you? And he said, no, and told me a fucking thing. I said, well, that doesn't give you a reason to fucking mistreat me. Go fuck yourself. And so then Paul turned around and walked out. And then Terry Taylor was taking me to the interviews, and Paul stepped in my way. And I said, Paul, he said, I'm going to kick your fucking fat ass. He threatened me. So I slapped him, and his feet came off the ground. I hit him, so I caught him with this. And so I said, oh, fuck, there's my job. I snapped, you know, I thought, I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to get suspended or fined, you know. And so when he got up, I let him hit me. That's when I stuck my chin out. I kind of laughed at him. I said, you better hit me better than that. And he hit me again, hit me a third time. And I'm still standing. I mean, it's like 3 times in the face I let him hit me. So in other words, I slapped you, but you hit me 3 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, I thought that would justify it, but no one even saw that. So I grabbed him, we went to the floor. And he stood up and kicked me a couple times. I stood up and chased him into the coach's room. Actually, we fought into the coach's room, just wrestled kind of, you know, like that. And that was pretty much it.
The coach's room is where the agents were.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was pretty much it. And from that, you know, and even Paul says in one interview, he says that he got 5 extra years from his contract because of that there.
Yeah, so he has you to thank for that.
So, you know, what's he going to do? Say no, it's all bullshit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the problem is everyone, I don't know if you've ever told that side of the story, so everyone just goes with the wrestler's side of the story, and you had your detractors.
Oh, I was, you know, when I did that, I mean, you know what? I was on top and I was kicking everyone's ass.
Yeah.
In other words, my role was to be the bad guy, beat everyone up.
Yeah.
So everyone that I wrestled, I was spudding, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Regal. I remember Steve Regal. I mean, I kicked the shit out of Steve because it was my job to, you know. And he was very vocal about all that, you know. Said, yeah, you're not so tough now. And I said, Steve, fuck. You know, so I just shut up and walked away.
Yeah.
But there's no way Paul Orndorff at 220 to beat my 400-pound ass with one arm. But that's probably the biggest knock on my career right there, is a non-wrestling him.
And the other problem is that he's buddies with Hogan, and Hogan always tells that story.
That's why I think he does tell that story.
Yeah.
He had boots on. And I don't know why that matters, but I guess if you're barefoot and slippers on, it's harder to fight somebody, right? But it was, I'm late, so what's he doing with slippers on? He's an agent. He's got his boots on. See, and they're all lying. And why, I don't know.
I'm just going to ask you about the Flair thing, the Hogan thing, then I'll ask you about that, because you had your match.
What Flair thing, Hogan thing?
Just your matches with Hogan, your match with Flair and your Hogan matches.
Okay.
Because that's right before the Nitro, so I'll just keep it in order. Just make sure that's recorded. zoom in a bit more for this one. So you had a very famous Starrcade match with Ric Flair that he talks about in his book and alleges that you were a little stiff with him in that match. But what are your memories of that match and just working with Flair in
I believe it
general?
was 34 minutes, and it was a 5-star match. The other 5-star match I was Muda in Japan. Flair, I mean, you don't have many 5-star matches, and that's one I'm very proud of. But the thing with Rick was, for me to be me, now I could go out there and have, a 2-star, 2.5, 3-star match with Rick. But to get the 5-star out of Rick, you had to piss him off, and you had to challenge him. And see, I've told Rick this, and he keeps telling that same sad story, that I did this, and then he beat me up and black in my eyes. Have you heard that?
Yeah, in his book.
Yeah, well, yeah. I blacked.
And you backed off after.
Yeah, in other words, I challenged him in the ring, and then he fired up and started punching me, and he was punching, closed my eyes. The next day, my eyes were closed, which is, they were a little puffy, but it's just bullshit. And then I backed off, and he basically dominated. And the thing was, I told Rick to his face in a bar, I said, Rick, come on, you keep telling that same sad story about how you puffed my eyes. And I said, how is it that you can puff my eyes up if I let you? Because I got on one knee, I put my hand around your waist and fed you. Like, come on, hit me. I put one knee and just looked up at him like that. And the reason was because I told Harley, I said, we're going to put Charlotte, and it was supposed to be me and someone else, but Rick was a replacement. So you don't put a replacement in a job. And so
you and Sid, actually, I think.
I think it was me and Sid, yeah, supposedly.
But the Anderson thing happened.
Yeah, the Anderson thing happened, and Sid was gone. So Rick's in his hometown. You can't beat him there. It's big baby fist. It wouldn't have been right. I don't think I wouldn't have done a job in my hometown in Denver. So we do the 34 minutes, and I had told Harley, you know what? The only way I can get this 4-star, 5-star match, and I didn't use those terms, but the best match out of Rick is if I piss him off. And I'm going to, for the first, he said, what are you going to do? And I said, for the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to stuff him. I mean, every time he looks like he wants to do something, I'm going to nail him. And boy, I did. And he was getting dejected. And I kept nailing him. And it was like nothing. But I knew we had the time. So it was like, I heard 15 minutes. And I said, okay, Rick, block. And, you talk about Ric Flair, and he hears, okay, from a 400-pound hill, he's ready because, he knows he's behind. And, man, he lights me up. But it was time. It was the match. It was by design. And I said, fucking hit. I can't say that. But I said, bleep, bleep. It's your time. Take it. And boy, he did. He was lighting me up, and I was feeding in my face. Rick threw great punches, and he would mainly hit me there, but a couple were to the eye, and he did, puff my eyes up. But so it was designed by me, and what you hear on the YouTube stuff is, something entirely different. But I credit Rick. I mean, for taking an ass